for some under-23 cross-country Olympic distance racing. Under-23 women set to get us underway here in the Czech Republic. Give us our first look at this full cross-country Olympic circuit. 19 degrees Celsius out there. It did dump rain perfectly in time for the start of the cross-country marathon World Cup. First round here today for them getting off the line. But the sun is out. Katarina Sadnik for KTM takes to the front row. Marine Lowe, pit stop racing team from Canada, also gets ready to open her European account for the season. And there will be a lot of noise the whole way round for this young woman, Holubova. Czech Republic, hoping for a home winner. Emily Johnson, second at round 2 in Arashah. Really fought like a lion for that second place as well. Could she go one better today? Big field here. Valentina Corvey. Shades of the Lucas Schwarzbauer. Likes to fight from the front. Always combative, always in amongst it, Corvey. Madigan Monroe. Trek Factory Racing Pirelli. Former US national champion. The British national champion, Ellen McLean-Hoyle. Great short track yesterday from the Brit. Can she back it up this afternoon? Isabella Holmgren has a real chance of doing what Ciara Ball and Riley Amos have become specialists in this season, and doing a double. Can she take her first cross-country Olympic win? We are getting ready to go racing here at the UCI World Cup Cross-Country Olympic. Third round for the under-23 women. My name's Rick McLaughlin, joining me in the booth for this one. Ollie Beckinsale. Ollie, one of the biggest fields we've seen in a long time. And there's talent, Ciara Ball there, talent up and down it.
Yeah, what we saw is obviously a big trip for a lot of the riders to get to Brazil, and the under-23 ranks slightly less funded than the elite, so a few riders missed it, and this is like the first big one where we got a full field and it's stacked top to finish, and we didn't. Isabella Holmgren, Ellen McLean-Hoyle, great ride in the short track. They were both missing from Brazil. And we saw yesterday a crash from Ciara Ball in the race as well, who won the first 2 rounds. So she was on the back foot in the cross-country, the short track. So she's got their move number 17 on the start line today. So some work to do.
Well, they're getting ready to go under starters' orders. You know the drill by now. The right lights will go red to begin with, and they will then go green. And we will get our first glimpse at one of the most famous circuits in cross-country racing. Lights go red. And it's green for go in Nové Město na Moravě. Ellen McLean-Hoyle sprints off the line and is going to lead them into the track for the first time. The British rider, national champion, great start from her. Corvey in the green, in the pink, and blue alongside her.
Good start as well from Marine Lowe as well, the young Canadian rider, number 82 on the start.
Yeah, big field here. So they head out onto the start loop just to narrow the numbers down before they head into the really tight confines of the track here in Nové Město na Moravě.
And for the favourites, it's a really scary start loop list, and it's wide for a long time.
Let's have a replay of the start. Ollie, talk us through this one.
Yeah, and we see McLean Howell is clipped in straight away. Big start. Marine Lau up the outside. Kira Baum already having a good start. She's having to start on the third row, but already up to that top 10.
Yeah, this is your first under-23 women's cross-country of the year. Important to stress how dominant Kira Baum has been, undefeated until last night. Short track, whenever Isabella Holmgren got the better of her and the rest off the field. So for the first time this season, question marks hanging over Kira Baum.
And it's Munro just leading around that top corner. Anesti as well. So we saw Anesti normally having slow starts in these races. Great climber and was always coming back, finishing the French champ.
Anesti in the French national champions jersey at the front on a full suspension bike for the first time this year. We saw her in Brazil with the hardtail and sort of feared for her at times, especially in Arashad.
With the fixed seat post as well on a hardtail. Yeah, it's not gone back to 1990, but Anesti as well.
Yeah, it got some appreciative nods from our good friend and colleague Bart Brenchens in the booth.
He put a stick in it.
He put a stick in that fork in a heartbeat. Get a full thing locked out. So,
but on this circuit, Anesti back on the full suspension bike, and this circuit, the characteristics of it, once we come off this start loop, we're into a lap, and it's so many of the sections, really big roots, big rocks. That is Nové Město in the woods.
Monroe's at the front of this one as well for Trek.
So it's hugely on the start loop. We have a kind of draggy forest track climb. Then they do this quick, fast, but it's still wide. Double track still gives the chance for riders to move up and down. We see Kira Baum there in the leader's jersey having dropped back a little bit on that start loop. The scary thing is there's chance to move up, because it means that people can come up, probably take some risks. These wide bars on the handlebar, it means that they're wider than their elbow. So unlike a road bike, the chance of getting caught up and coming down is pretty high. We saw that in the short track.
We saw that in the elite short track. I was just about to say, really, I mean, it's an old maxim that we've used a lot already this year, but safest place to be in a cross-country race is right at the front of it. When you get down in the pack, you're liable to have someone else's crash happening around you.
Yeah, and we always say it's that start loop, you're not going to win the race, but there's a good chance of losing it, and none more so than in Nové Město.
Well, Anesti looking really strong at the front of this one. There is Holibova at the front as well. Should be roared on by the local fans. Czech rider.
Yeah, and there's a bit of an impact going back. Two riders not necessarily going down, but tangling handlebars, stopping, and then it sends a ripple all the way down the bunch. And if you're kind of stuck just behind that, you end up losing 20, 30 seconds, a handful of places.
Last Czech winner here was the man himself, Jaroslav Kolhavy, 2015, 2011, 9 UCI World Cup wins, cross-country world champs and Olympic gold to his name. So, Czech fans.
And we see Isabella Holmgren, the winner of yesterday's short track, already hitting the front now. She just settled in off that start, hitting the front. Tall rider, last year's junior world champion.
She's one of these multi-format phenoms as well, isn't she?
Unbelievable. Yeah, world cross champion and juniors, mountain bike, and then also, top 10 in the road race as well. So
no slouch.
Multi-discipline.
Yeah.
You see Kira Baum, the leader overall, winner of the first 4 rounds in the 2 short tracks and 2 cross countries in Brazil, but not the best to start so far. McLean Howard as well, just back, probably a little bit further back than she would like.
That win from Isabella Holmgren, the woman out front at the minute. Canada's first female win since Catherine Pendrell, Mont Saint Anne 2016. You've got to go back to. At World Cup level. Ellen McLean-Howell just going backwards slightly in the pack.
And another rider who wasn't in Brazil, the Swiss rider in Le Bon Weil, just sitting there at the moment, number 34 on the plate. So that's her current UCI ranking. And but giving chase in second place at the moment.
And here we go. This is Nové Město na Moravě proper, isn't it? Look at those routes. Everywhere, a carpet of routes.
So after the start loop, it's the forest road for the first bit, and then we're into these multi-lines, these big drop-downs.
This section so fast. We were walking a track last night during practice.
Yeah, the speed, it was the junior riders who were wrecking when we were walking yesterday. Unbelievable, the speed they were hitting those jumps at.
Not scared. But it's Holmgren not scared of these climbs at the minute. This circuit, Ollie, it's really, I mean, it sounds obvious, but it's straight up, straight down the whole way round, isn't it? It's full of little punchy climbs, little punchy descents. So
intense, you know, all the climbs as well. And because they're so routine, they're big routes as well, and big rocks.
Holmgren's off and running, but not necessarily slower if she can stay clear of the traffic. And that's why, I mean, once upon a time, I've done a couple of laps of this place, and that is the thing I find about it, is that one little mistake somewhere on the pedals, you're off.
So this section here, it's so steep, but the roots and rocks are big, and they're like little steps everywhere. And if you lose a bit of momentum, then the wheel slips, you lose traction, and then you're off, and then you lose 5-6 meters to the rider in front. And what happens is characteristics of the course here at Nové Město. We've got a really steep climb like we've got now. Turn a corner, and then we're bombed straight down again. And during the circuit, we've got kind of 6 of these steep climbs, 6 descent, and it's just non-stop. There's no chance to recovery other than that big start-finish straight.
So we jump on the drone for the first time. Isabella Holmgren, this section, you always have to caveat it. Great fun to ride, not necessarily to race.
Yeah, and yesterday we had a lot of rain on course in the morning, and that was probably the most treacherous section. Some huge routes, really difficult angles as well, and people were there trying to work out how to avoid things, the best lines. Once you get into the deeper trees, it's normally got pretty good grip, but it's the open sections which have far less grip.
You've got a lot of experience around here. So we've had big rain yesterday morning, a touch this afternoon as we look at the slow-mo off on Este. What's your read on the conditions? It looks pretty much perfect out there to my eyes.
Yeah, generally once it rains, the roots get slippery really quickly. In the open sections where they've deforested it, that gets very slippery, but then it dries so quickly. So, it's generally pretty warm here at this time of year, but also as well, there's so many trees, they just suck up the water pretty quick. So you can see today we've had so much rain yesterday, but it's pretty much bone dry today, which makes the course ride so much better. The rocks generally have pretty good grip when it's wet, but it's the roots.
So we do have a bit of an update for you on it. You see the big grandstand in the woods. What a place to watch bike racing that is, through the big rock garden. We do have a bit of an update for you on the condition of Jenny Risvids, who crashed out of that elite women's short track race. The team's saying that they're still undergoing assessments right now on Jenny, and they'll make the decision tomorrow on whether or not we see her in the cross-country Olympic race. But, I mean, that sounds reasonably positive versus straight away, this is broken or that's broken.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big crash right over the handlebars. It wasn't a little slide out. She went up straight at the front door and onto a hard surface as well. So, yeah, it was a big one. Hopefully she's all good.
So there is Holmgren, leads us on to the start-finish, straight to finish off the start loop. Looking like she's getting a rush on as well. Elena Benoit is behind her. Olivia Onesti behind her again. Then it's Kira Baum. There she is in your picture behind Onesti in the red and white of the overall points leader.
Yeah, Kira Baum, obviously the favourite for this race coming into it, but a crash in a short track, a bad start, but she's coming through strong, and she really needs to. I mean, Holmgren's gone off on that start loop, you know, coming in with a gap already. Baum needs to, you know, she's going to have to work hard to close that 9 seconds now, but it's a now or never, really. She has to close it.
Yeah, we theorised about it at the time, and we were right, you know. That was Cube's first UCI World Cup win in Maripora in the short track, thanks to Kira Baum. So not a small victory by any means, that. Big brand like Cube getting their first win. Great to see.
Yeah, and coming in with a factory squad again, and, you know, the proper bits, big riders, but focusing more on the U23 ranks. I think it's a smart move, developing riders rather than buying in at the, you know, the kind of top 10 in the elite. It's
a smart move, but it's going to take a lot more than a smart move to catch Isabella Holmgren here today. She is doing exactly what Sophie Heavy-Pettersson did here last season, and disappearing up the road on that number 32 bike. So Elena Benoit 11 seconds back off her by our timer in the booth on Este. 16 seconds back in third. Baum's right with her. There is Benoit. Great ride from Benoit.
Yeah, unbelievable. Last year, best race was a 14th World Cup. So, you know, sitting there in second place, she's definitely up to game coming into this year. And obviously it's an age-related category, so you get a chunk of riders every year that will go up. But to jump up from 14th to riding in second is a big jump.
It is one of those tracks as well, Ollie, isn't it? It's a bike rider's track.
Yeah.
it's where the technically gifted can really shine. It's often why we see British riders do well in the Czech Republic. It's the kind of stuff they're used to riding. It's that sort of, not necessarily brutally steep up or down, but routes, lack of traction, carrying speed.
We were saying yesterday, it felt like we could be in, Glentress in Scotland. It was that mix of really rooty natural stuff with some man-made, and it takes a certain a different skill set than maybe we had in Arasha, which was dry generally, big jumps, big features. This is more like minute technical. It's little line choices, it's traction, it's a different tech.
So here we have a chasing group then, led by Monroe. Onesti's in there, Santos, Sara Cortinovis, the Italian for Santa Cruz RockShox Pro Team, currently in 7th. Valentina Corby's down in 10th, just behind the highest Czech rider, Srenska. There is Kira Baum, the overall points leader, undefeated in Brazil.
Yeah, the pace set by Holmgren.
25 seconds back to 3rd place in Baum at the minute.
And a couple of riders, we saw Gina Kiruri as well, one of the great riders from last year, placed well in the early World Cups as well. Bad short track, but she's floating around there at the moment with, 25th place, already hemorrhaging over a minute.
This section here, this little punch is absolutely pivotal to your whole lap. Kira Baum off and running, but this bit has never been as easy, Ollie.
No, it's really tough. You go up a long climb, you get no recovery. You have one forest tracks across.
You've got like a bike and a half length, haven't you, before you're up on it. There's Alan McLean-Hoyle in the British national champion stripes. Sorry, continue.
The only way to hit it is when you hit the forest road just before it, you have to do a full sprint to hit it with momentum. Easier said than done, because you've already just done a really difficult climb before it, so you're gassed. All you want to do is recover, but what you need to do is accelerate. It's such a tough section.
We're back with the leader, Holmgren. 28 seconds clear of Elena Benoit. She's going early, Ollie. 5 laps the distance, this one.
But she's looking like, it's not like she's attacking early, it just looks like that's her pace. She's looking comfortable.
I mentioned it before, it's very much the Sophie Heli-Pettersson as of the start of 2023 approach, where at no point does it look like she's hammering home any particular sector. She's just riding everything faster.
Yeah, that's her pace. She's just, doing better than everybody else at the moment. It's very simple. But we see in the kit she's in the, not the Trek mountain bike kit, but the little Trek team. So having been that multidiscipline rider, signing for 2 years out of junior ranks for the World Tour road team.
Big news as she heads on to, what did we call it earlier on, the Mur de Vysočina, one of the most heart-spiking climbs in mountain biking. That camera angle doesn't do it justice. It just goes on and on and on, covered in roots.
Yeah, if I was comparing it to a road climb, it's like the Koppenberg in Tour of Flanders. It's dead straight. Not on its own, it's not that bad, but every time it's relentless. And every section of this climb is covered with roots.
That's how steep it is. From the rider leaving your shot now, back to the rider in the white helmet is 33 seconds gap. So that tells you something. And she is coming under the attention of Olivia Onesti, who is a great climber. We know that from Brazil. So maybe Onesti can make the difference on these climbs.
But you saw Onesti then, she just took a slightly bad line, hit one of the bigger roots, and it just completely stalled, took all the momentum away.
It's one of the few places of the whole Whoop UCI Mountain Bike World Series where there is no right line up this climb.
There is, if you look up from the bottom and it is just roots everywhere. And like I say, thankfully they have, it's relatively dry, there's still a bit of damp on the wall, but you've got pretty good traction, but you've got to remain seated the whole way up as well, so you can't get out the saddle and use that kind of turbo boost. Because of the lack of grip, you need to stay seated the whole way, which makes it so tough.
Ana Santos, couple of crashes in Brazil, not the results she was hoping for. She goes through your shot now in 6th place, but up with the front of this race. There is Elena Benoit.
Yeah, great start for Benoit. And now this kind of group of what we call favourites have come up to her. She's just got to hang in there. Great start, then use that position just to hang into people like Kira Baum, Monroe.
Meanwhile, back at the front, Holmgren making a break for it.
Yeah, and further back, 23rd now. There's 2 homegrowns in the race. So Ava homegrown, her twin sister.
Non-identical twin
sister. Back in 23rd at the moment.
And their brother, Gunnar Holmgren, on the KMC Ridley squad of the Northern Bart Brenchens.
Yeah, pretty talented family of cyclists, that lot.
Pretty talented family of cyclists, although we do know that Gunnar has worked as a barista in the past, which may have bought himself a place onto that team as a result. The Bart man likes a coffee, but he's got a good eye for mountain bike talent as well. And the Holmgrens, seriously fast Canadian family. Isabella doing the business out the front of this one at the minute.
Got a few riders just losing a bit of time at the moment.
Corby's 1 minute 10 back.
Yep.
13th.
Third in round 2. You put her, you expect to be in this front group on lap 1, but already a minute down, back in 12th place.
We just saw as well, there is Ciara Baum then moving into second place. So can Ciara Baum get the magnets on and rein in Isabella Holmgren? It's a big ask, but we are talking about the class off the field so far this season in Ciara Baum.
I think it's this lap at the moment is quite mentally a tough lap for Ciara Baum. You know, she's gone from having it her own way and really been not head and shoulders above the other riders, but undefeated in Brazil in 4 races.
Unless he just moving past her again, so how much... I mean, we're talking about very, very young riders. Ollie, is the experience there for them to form a group and share the effort and bring him back? I think Isabella Holmgren here, it's 44 seconds at the minute.
I think on this circuit it's very difficult to ride as a group with those climbs that, you know, so technical. You almost end up, actually it's a negative. You end up almost riding into each other on the routes. And there's a chance of taking each other out, and on the descents as well, you don't get such good a line. It's one of those circuits where actually being on your own and being able to see the track and ride your own lines is actually a benefit. The only time it's an advantage, really, you've got that big, long start-finish straight where a group can work together and share the load.
Well, see Ana Santos trying to get back on to that group, led for the time being by the overall points leader, Ciara Baum, on the Cube bike. Interestingly as well, saw a number of the riders on the front row. It's a sunny day for now here in the Czech Republic, wearing clear lenses on the riding glasses because it's very dappled light, very tricky to see the routes in here. It's
a tough one in here. The woods are so deep in parts, and as well, and there's quite a lot of depth changes as well. So between the routes, you've got some really big dips, so it's really hard, especially with the light. We look at this section as a classic example, being able to pick out which route sections, and they're taking this slightly slower. It's down as a kind of easier beeline on the right, but I think it's turning out to be faster as the conditions have changed.
Yeah, it's a longer route, but it's one corner you can kind of hit and carry speed out. Ciara Baum really fast through the drops of this one.
Yeah, and these are relatively big jumps, but it's what you're landing on. You're not landing onto a smooth slope, you're landing straight onto big routes, so physically really hard. And we're talking about how relentless this course is, but you come down there, you're having to use your legs to absorb the jumps, the upper body to absorb the routes, and then as you come round a corner and you're straight into this section as well, which is a very physical course as well.
See Benoit off and running here.
Yeah, multi-line up here. 2 completely different sections. And this is what we saw last year, particularly in the men's race. We had Pidcock and DeBow fighting out for the win, and it was down onto this climb, and one picked one side, one on the other, and just went for it.
Oh, on Esty.
Esty just pausing.
I thought she was going to trials her way back up. But the clipless pedals, once you twist your foot out of the pedal mechanism, it's difficult to get it back in without remounting the bike. But Ciara Baum just cutting across the front of her. And we see this again.
Good skills using the tree.
Yeah, stalled though, didn't she? That's the thing. It's what you always talk about. It's better to get off the bike early, keep the forward momentum, than to stop moving altogether.
And Benoit did a good job of that. She got off early, ran a section, jumped back on, then she jumped off again. And actually, she's managed to go from the back of the group to the front of the group using that tactic and just keeping that momentum, keeping rolling. What you don't want to be doing is pausing and stopping like we saw in Esty. It just kills all your momentum. And when you get going again, a lot of torque in the legs.
Yeah, Baum and Munro then ride the section and get past Benoit and on Esty.
McLean Howell now recovering from a slightly bad start, back up to 8th place for the Brit, about a minute behind, and seeing whether she can make contact with this kind of big second group.
The top 10 covered by 1 minute 31 seconds. Jasinska of Poland currently in 10th place, so gives you an idea of the pace of Isabella Holmgren out front. She's 47 seconds clear of second place Benoit. Then it's an SD bomb, Monroe.
Yeah, and I think pretty good chance that we'll see McLean Howell and Johnson as well, just making contact with the back of this group again.
Yeah, Johnson's in 9th at the minute, just behind McLean Howell, so this one could come back together, at least behind the leader. But it's going to take some doing to catch Isabella Holmgren. Here we see that climb, and you see the difference of riding and walking.
But Anesti as well, she's been, when it hits the climb, she's straight to the front of this group, putting lightning on the pressure. But on the descents, just not quite as fast as everybody else, just losing the wheel now. 3-4 seconds just in one descent.
You can see the amount of energy going through the bikes on that shot as well. And that is, as Ollie says, the whole way around here. Unless you're on one of these few asphalt sections, the routes covering the whole place. As they head through the jumps that form part of the short track course over the big bridge that we saw Charlie Aldridge clear during the elite men's race.
So Isabella Holmgren just going through that start.
57 seconds.
57 seconds.
She's found another 10 seconds in one split.
So with Holmgren, she looks so strong in that short track. She went off from the penultimate lap, put the pressure down, and no one could hold the wheel. So we knew she had good form, strong legs, but 54 seconds in, 1.5 laps that's unheard of, really.
And is it mentally, is it a different sport whenever you're by yourself and you don't have riders around you? Is it more difficult to keep focus, or is it more relaxing that
I think when you're on
that space?
When you're on a good day, you just lock in. We saw Pauline Ferrand-Prévot do it the last 2 World Championships. She just went from the gun, locked it in, and then you just go into this metronomic, almost like you're doing hard practice laps, and it's quite relaxing. You're just ticking off the climbs, ticking off the sections, and I think when you're on great form and you've got that real focused ability that day, being on your own is amazing. It's a great place to be.
Stress-wise as well, you know that you do have a bit of time in your pocket if you get a puncture, or there's a mechanical, or you need to drop into the tech feed zone.
You get sometimes where being in a group, there's this kind of synergy and everyone can work and bounce off each other. But on a course like this, other than this section where they're on now, you go into the woods and it's more annoying than helpful.
You can see the dappled light there. Ciara Baum, Madigan Monroe coming through the woods. And there's Benoit. Tell you what, Benoit is winning in terms of racing their number out there. 34 on the bike. Currently sitting in 4th in the race.
I say Monroe having a good ride. We saw in Brazil she had some good results, but 4th and 6th, but compared to what she was probably expecting going in, that would have been slightly disappointing.
Monroe looking like she's maybe just taking charge of this group a wee bit, up on the pace slightly to try and attempt to bring everyone across. There's Sina Van Thiel for Lexware. You mentioned yesterday Lexware and these European teams that maybe they only had 1 or 2 riders in Brazil. We look back at another group with McLean Howell in it, 3rd wheel. Emily Johnson on the front of it. Yeah, they're finally here. They're in Europe. They've got the full pit set up, all the spares. Yeah. They can be a different sort of a different level of formidable.
Yeah, and it's that getting into that team of generally U23 riders or younger riders, and it's a really good place for being that Lexware team we see, specialising generally in the younger and 23 riders and domestic German riders, and they do a cracking job. And quite often when they get the day right, they can compete with the big factory teams.
Holmgren out front, the gap's 1 minute 10 now, so another 10 seconds. Oh. Leader just off and running up the hill, but you can see how quickly she was off the bike and still carrying forward motion.
So we have that large kind of group behind Holmgren of 5 riders, 6 riders now. Then there's a second group back 20 seconds behind. Emily Johnson, McLean Howard. It's whether those groups can come back together. I think there's a reasonable chance this lap.
So Holmgren leads Baum and Munro. But what a lead it is. 1 minute 10 at the minute. The number 32 bike. Of Canada's Isabella Holmgren. Looking imperious out the front of this one. There's Ana Santos off and running too.
Coronas as well.
Cordonovas, yeah, would have been one of the pre-season favourites as well, just based on experience in the Italian national jersey. Just gone through your shot there now.
And Monique Holter as well, current European champion. She won that a couple of weeks ago over in Romania. The Swiss rider as well, just coming through. Decent short track yesterday.
We just caught a glimpse of the second Holmgren twin, Eva.
Yeah, up to 17th now. Eva Holmgren.
Here is the leader onto the wall. It's now on Nesty at the front of this group.
But there's a reasonable chance that Holmgren will have cleared the climb and got out of sight before the other riders hit that. And that mentally is a massive blow.
It's a blow, isn't it?
You know that, they're a minute up the road, that's gone. It's such a steep climb and it's long, straight. It pulls the groups back together. But if they're out of sight, that's pretty demoralising as a second group. We have this bit of flowing single track just before we start that main steep climb. And it's just one of the bits of the course where you're not necessarily recovering, but you can just soft pedal a little bit and kind of just get ready for the big push up to the top.
Here we go. Second and third place on Esty and Munro onto the wall for the first time behind Holmgren's second time, excuse me. Lap 2 out of 5.
1:14 the gap now. Huge.
Munro, we saw her push really, really hard in Arisha early doors and then go backwards, hoping for a more consistent set of lap time today.
Oh, Kira Baum just making a mess of that one, catching on the route.
Yeah, and holds up Benoit in the process, and here comes Ana Santos.
And I think this lap, Kira Baum's going to really have to show a mental strength. So coming in, leading overall, won every race, crashing a short track, so morale might have been dented a bit. And then at the back end of a minute 20 down now, that's going to be a real tough one to swallow. Regroup yourself and go and actually start fighting for second, having started this weekend thinking that it was going to be possibly another win.
Benoit just running the top as well. This is where we famously saw Jaroslav Kolhavi attack Nino Schurter. 2015.
Emily Johnson just getting ahead of that rest of the group, trying to close the gap, but 1:53 down now in 7th place.
Nearly 2 minutes down, 7th place.
The pace so far has been unbelievable. McLean Howell now 11th. Just needs to get onto the back of that group, going over the top.
Valentina Corby, who started right at the front of this race, 2 minutes 27 back in 13th. That's the damage being done by Isabella Holmgren. Her twin sisters in 14th behind Corby. And that's Ellen McLean Howell heading towards the top of that soul-sapping climb. Oh no.
Van Thiel going down in the rock garden there.
Nowhere soft to land in there. Looks like she did a good job though, damage limitation wise.
Yeah, that big main rock garden, you've kind of got 2 lines that crisscross all the way down. And if you're on your line, life's generally pretty good. But if it goes wrong, it goes pretty majorly wrong. Big features in there. But it looks like Monroe and Nesty just getting a little bit of a gap on that climb now. Just before it, we had like a big drop off. It comes down. There's a small recovery section. Time to get a good drink. And then we turn right, and then we've got the switchback climb going back up again. Tough climbing on the corners. It gets really steep, up to kind of 20-25% on the corners, and then falls flat again up to the top before we start the Cannondale, not the Cannondale drops this year, the Czech drops on the way down.
You're living in the past, Ollie. You're living in the past.
It's ingrained in my brain.
Yeah. Isabella Holmgren then leads the way by 1 minute 15 on lap 2. Oof. And if you're in a team, Ollie, are you telling your riders that?
I'd probably just focus on the position at this point, not a time check, you know.
I see. So these two, Monroe and Onesti, seem to have broken free of Ciara Baum, the series leader. She's 1 minute 32 back off the lead. So
yeah, made that mistake and had to get off and run on the main climb.
It's a fickle sport, isn't it? We arrived in here talking about who was going to have an answer for Ciara Baum, and Isabella Holmgren had one.
But it's funny, you have the first 2 rounds in Brazil were 5 weeks before this, and there's a long time to change your form. You can be up, you can be down, and some riders come into that first round of the year, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, come in absolutely flying. They're at 100% of their best form, but there's nowhere to go. So trying to hold that over the kind of European racing block we've got now is really difficult. So they started at 100%, they might drop to 95% for this block, and then you've got other riders that are building condition through into June, and then so it's a difficult one to hold your season. We start in March and we got to get through till October. So,
well, we talked about it last season a lot with the plight of Sophie Heavy Pettersson. You know, she was the Isabella Holmgren last season. She just rode away from everyone the whole start of the year, and then had that, it wasn't even really a crash. She unclipped and had a bit of a bobble at the UCI World Championships in Glen Tress, and she was never the same rider after it. Yeah,
and it's like you're never quite sure. I mean, the two are combined, but that mental, physical thing, were they physically not in a great place? Did they mentally crack a little bit? Or was it just that big combination, which is the most common, is it's a combination of two? But it's holding that form together, and you never quite know. Someone could be ill in that period of time. They could have had a huge training camp altitude, so they might turn up here a bit under par, a bit fatigued from the training.
Top 5 covered by 1 minute 41 on lap 2. Isabella Holmgren. You can see the split line choice there. Anna Santos and Ciara Baum with the number 1 in their back. Isabella Holmgren doing some damage early doors here. Madigan Monroe's off and running. Monroe's looking good though. Off the chasing pack.
Yeah, if you take Holmgren out the mix, we're back between kind of 2nd and 6th. The time gaps we would have expected to see or would see around here normally. It's just a Holmgren just seems to be this extra class above at the moment. It's so tough, this climb.
Ana Santos, the Portuguese rider, with Ciara Baum. Baum moving quite slowly there, Ollie.
Yeah, and the way she's getting on the bike, it's kind of
laboured.
Yeah, mentally, physically, a bit beaten up at the moment, I think. So
I think she's entitled to take that personally.
They're all taking a beating at the moment.
Everyone is taking a beating at the hands of Isabella Holmgren here today.
Yeah, the way you saw Ciara Baum getting on the bike there, and that didn't look like someone that was attacking anymore. There, it looked like somebody who was just getting by.
Her twin sister, Eva Holmgren, up to 14th now, so she's moving up in this race, and she's ahead of the pre-season favourite, Ginia Kaluri. That move to the Villiers Vittoria factory team for Kaluri. This off-season still looking like it's yet to really pay off.
Yeah, so Kaluri, if we looked at the pick of the bunch from 23, a lot of the ride, I think the top 4 went up into seniors this year, and she was that best of the rest. So going into the first round, you know, was the favourite on paper, but didn't have bad results out in Brazil, but, you know, 2nd in round 1, 4th in round 2. But, you know, Ciara Baum was really, really strong out there.
3 laps to go for Isabella Holmgren then, and I can tell you the guy in the moto at the front of the race has had to get a wriggle on. I think he's just clocked how close she is to him. Blasts her way through the tech feed zone outside of our commentary booth, takes a bottle, heads out for another lap and another, presumably, massive chunk of time out of the rest of the field.
Yeah, so that gap from Holmgren back to Munro. At the moment on the timing screen, looking at like the 1:20, but I reckon the next time we get a split, that's jumped up again.
Yep, she definitely didn't lose any time the tech feeds, and there's a little sort of left, right, left chicane on the way out of it, but it won't have cost her much. Ciara Baum having to unclip and deploy the land anchor halfway through that rock section. Last thing you want to do.
Yeah, Ciara Baum not happy at the moment.
She just can't seem to find her rhythm, Ollie.
Yeah, and that's this circuit, you know, in a nutshell, really. Once you're in a good rhythm, you link all the sections together, you don't make a mistake on the climb, and you're not throwing away any time. When it starts to go wrong, like we see Ciara Baum now just struggling a bit, she makes a mistake on the climb, she unclips, you lose the group, you make a mistake on the rock garden.
Munro looks like she has broken free up on Esty here, and Esty just taking a gel.
Yeah, so this race will probably be kind of the hour and a quarter mark or so there's enough time to burn through the sugar stores that you start with, and Esty just having one of the energy gels there. Most of the riders will have a little bit of maybe carbohydrate drink or water or energy gel just to keep them going. You don't need loads in a race at about an hour and a quarter, but just enough. Otherwise, if you get it wrong, there's enough time to run through the stores and slow on the last lap.
And it is a long start-finish straight off the bridge here in the Vysočina Arena, so plenty of opportunity to get a feed and a bit of drink in. Number 2 bike of Emily Johnson's crosses the line. 2 minutes 3 seconds behind Holmgren now.
But the first time we've seen it all race is actually Munro's just come back a bit from Holmgren. That was floating in the 120s. We're back at 118 now. So Munro on a bit of a charge, and it'd be interesting to see whether Holmgren's slowing down or it's actually Munro getting faster and attacking the other riders around her.
I've just clicked on the fastest lap times in the booth, and the iPad's had a meltdown, and it keeps flashing the name Isabella Holmgren at me, so even it's struggling.
Now, what will be interesting to see as well is that first lap of Holmgren versus the elite women tomorrow.
Madigan Munro, though, 1:17 down now, so 3 seconds have gone back towards the American. Maybe Holmgren just settling into the middle part of this race. There she is, Munro.
Yeah, and I think it'll work for her now that she's in that rhythm. She'll be happy, I think, mentally with that second position at the moment. She can get into her pace. Technically, she's very good, so she can take her own pace on the climbs, hit the downhill lines that she wants. Whereas an Esty was almost getting in her way a bit. They're two different in abilities in their climbing and descending speeds. So
there is the series overall points leader, Ciara Baum, working away with Ana Santos, currently 4th and 5th. Just inside the 2-minute mark behind this woman.
And back onto that really steep, rocky section, probably the hardest climb on the course. It's only a short section, but it's almost impossible to ride.
It's traction-free, isn't it? Even in the dry, really flat-faced rocks that just can't get any purchase on.
But you need a real spike in power to be able to get the drive to get over that section. And that's why, again, that circuit's tough. The fastest way from A to B is always a consistent power, and this course at Nové Město, it's encouraging you to do these kind of spikes of power all the time. They're super fatiguing, and also, well, if you do a spike of power, you then have to follow that with some recovery. It's not magic, you know.
I mentioned at the top of the show that it's the 14th time we've been here, and I think it's testament to how good a course it is here in the Vysočina Arena that, you know, if you look at some of the other courses from 14 years ago, they'd look dated now, they wouldn't provide this quality of racing, but this place, it's well capable.
Yeah, and it's relatively unchanged. I rode the first event here in 2011, and it hasn't changed a lot since. They added a couple of rock gardens, but the actual course design is unchanged in, 14 appearances now, pretty much.
You can see the cadence on Esty spinning there on her way up this really tricky little section. Munro starting to gap her now. 15 seconds.
The section that Munro's on now is really tough. You go over that big Shimano climb, the steep rock section, and then you have to get on, and it drags all the way to the top, and that's the difference. If you've got good power, we see an Esty now riding really well. You can change down through the gears here, keep the momentum, and kind of attack this false flap. When you're struggling a bit, the temptation is to stay in the same gear and just roll, and then that's where 5-6 seconds can go every time.
There's the leader. Isabella Holmgren's on the wall. 1 minute 21, so it has gone back out by 4 seconds now. Oh, it is such a brutally tough piece of track. All the cowbells in the world aren't getting you up there any quicker.
But the fan support on here is good. There's a rider both sides. It gets so loud, so noisy.
We will see that place 4 or 5 deep in spectators coming to elite races tomorrow.
The nice thing about this circuit as well is it kind of zigzags up and down the hill, or winds around the hill. So that section there with the steepest climb is also really close to the big rock garden section. So you'll see fans can go watch it in both parts. So they're all run from one section to the other across the course. And Czech fans normally pretty rowdy.
They'll be doing well to be rowdier than the Polish downhill fans last weekend in Bielsko-Biała, but they will give them a run for their money. So Holmgren leads the way now by 1 minute 17 from Madigan Monroe, then Olivia Onesti, then Kira Baum, then Anna Santos. Your top 5 covered by 2 minutes. Here is the battle for second and third. It's currently being won by that woman, Madigan Monroe.
Yeah, Monroe, Trek Factory rider, doing a great job today. Riding smooth, well, quite a controlled race. It's so easy as well. I think when someone like Holmgren rocks up and sets the pace from the gun, is not to try and follow. The risk is you go and follow and you go too deep into the red and then you have a really bad lap. Actually, it's acknowledging that that person's going faster than you and risk knocking back to your own pace. And I think that's something maybe that Kira Baum suffered with. She felt like she had to go with Holmgren. I think that was the right thing to do, but then it pays off with a slow lap.
Onesti, big wide bars. Kira Baum. Emily Johnson riding her way across to these two now, so I wonder if Johnson can either pitch a lift or just go straight past.
Yeah, Johnson's done a great job. She's close kind of 30 seconds on this last lap back to this point. Got back onto the back of Kira Baum and Santos.
Absolute fighter, Johnson, isn't she?
Yeah, for Johnson, third in round 1, so a great start to the season.
So the highest placed Czech rider, Srenska, in 22nd. We did think that we would see more of Holibova towards the front of this one, but it's not been the case, sadly.
And Goverman, the German rider as well, 5th at European Champs 2 weeks ago as well.
Are we going to see? Yep, there we go. Szysenska crosses the time and split to give us a 3-minute spread in the top 10.
Monroe just looking smooth. This is a section where you can just drop your heels, recover a little bit. It's rough, but it's not crazy rough. This big drop off though, that is hard on the quads.
Hard on rims as well.
Yeah, that's where we saw Evie Richards flat last year. Just as you come off, if you go slightly offline, there's a couple of little rim dingers that can pinch the tyre, air pops out. Most of these tyres, they're not running an inner tube in here, but running a tubeless setter. So the tyre pops on almost like a car tyre would onto the rim, and then there's a latex sealant just to seal things and fix the occasional puncture. But if you hit things hard enough, it's enough to break that seal and then causes a flat of sorts.
And we can just see the chaos and that little pinch, and oh, that is Gregor Ziska coming a cropper. Polish rider tipping over, just getting stalled out by the riders in front of her, I think, then toppling over, clipped in. Madigan Monroe though heading towards the second tech zone.
Coming into the top 10 as well. Fiona Schreiber as well started 56 on the grid, so working her way up into the top 10. So
big ride.
The number board you'll have will be their current world ranking. So normally as a racer you think if you're ahead of your board you're having a great day. So 56 up into 7th. That kind of shows what a great ride that is.
1 minute 22 then between Holmgren and Monroe. 1 minute 49 between Holmgren and third place on SD. Girabaum's 2 minutes 12 back. Sentences you never thought you'd hear yourself say at the start of the year.
It just shows as well how tough this circuit is. And what shows how tough it is as well is even Isabella Holmgren is forced to run a couple of these sections. They're so steep and the routes, and maybe some of them are still a bit wet from yesterday's rain.
Yeah, back with a leader. Little dappled spots of slightly slicker dirt just where the sunlight hasn't been able to hit it thanks to the tree cover. But Holmgren hasn't looked back. She's 1 minute 23 ahead in the second place. Madigan Munro, 2 treks leading the way.
Yeah, and just as Holmgren crests his top now, drop a post down to get that seat post out the way, pop it back into the frame, and then drop down, heels down, picking the line, just coming down into here now. This is the section that goes super rutted, super rooty when it was wet yesterday, but now a little easier to ride. A big drop in onto this forest track.
Isabella Holmgren yesterday, here's a bit of a stat for you all. It's joined an exclusive club with people who've won their first UCI World Cup in Nové Město, Moravě. That includes Tom Pidcock, Luana Lecomte, Henrik Avancini, Simon Andreasen, and one Mathieu van der Poel.
Not a bad club to be in.
Not a bad club to be in. There is Madigan Munro, second place currently on the number 4 bike. Just to see the back end just skating across a big route there. And that's all it takes on in this place.
It just shows, that proves how slick things still are. You caught with that route, the little sniper routes at 45 degrees, and that's it, bang, wheels out. If you catch one of those on one of the downhills, then yeah, on the front wheel, that's bad times.
Holmgren, Munro on SD, boom, Santos your top 5, 2 minutes 17 covering them. Battle for fourth between Baum and Santos, really the closest at the front of this race currently as the drone picks up Madigan Munro. And then she tips it into this really fast ascent, absolutely no time to recover. And you can see just how brutally chattery this track is in the Czech Republic.
Yeah, it's a very physical circuit, upper body as well. The big routes to drop-offs as well. Every time there's that press-up power. And you see when rider gets offline, hits a big divot, big rub, and they have to go into almost like a bench press position just to try and save things a bit. And during the race, the amount of kind of press-ups you'll have to do is in the hundreds. So it's the gym work paying off.
Well, out front, Isabella Holmgren. Looking like she is barely breathing heavily. Honesty, just looking like she'd get a bit of panic braking done there. The bike was starting to run away from her.
Yeah, you see the difference between Anesti and Munro. Munro's able to let the bike roll over those routes technically a little bit better, so she's almost going more recovery and going faster at the same time. Anesti a bit stiffer on the bike, super fast on the climbs, but on the descents. And previously in the first 2 rounds running a hardtail bike, so any suspension on the front. This week, finally, she's managed to get herself sorted with a full sus bike.
Yeah, she still has that little trinket hanging off the saddle, though. I do wonder what that is. I would assume it can't be that valuable if it's hanging off the back of a saddle, but maybe a little good luck charm. Well, it's working for her today. Currently in third place, Olivia Onesti, Trinks factory team.
I said for Munro doing a good ride, just piecing together these bits of course, making it's all a bit of a puzzle around Nové Město, and it's just getting the pieces in the right place.
6th at the second round in Arisha for Madigan Munro. Isabella Holmgren looking like she's breathing a bit heavier now, but she does have 1 minute and 29 seconds to play with.
So Munro just taking down an energy gel. 2 laps to go. They take about 10 minutes or so for those gels to start working, so a bit of fuel for that last 20 minutes.
Yeah, and well, she might need it as well. Temperature's starting to rise here. The wind has just dropped a little bit from earlier on this afternoon when said Ollie at the top of the show, it really did hose it down for the start of the Marathon World Cup.
Yeah.
It's got its first round here today, the cross-country marathon. They're out currently beating their way across the Czech countryside. But since then, it's kind of stabilised and got quite hot again.
Yeah, once the sun comes out now, it starts going from that kind of 18 to 22, and once you're in this effort, if you're on one of the longer climbs and the sun's on your back, then you'll know about it pretty quickly. It's not into the kind of ice fests that we were seeing in Brazil, but
it was cool enough earlier on for Josh Carlson and I to eat our lunch outside in direct sunlight, so that gives you an idea.
But Johnson just trying
Johnson
to
looks like
get
he's been down. A bit of dirt on the back of the jersey there and on the arm. So Emily Johnson maybe has had a crash somewhere around the lap. She's currently 2 minutes 32 down in 6th place. Madigan Monroe though looking super strong.
Good gap ahead of Anesti now. They were together not that long ago now, 30 seconds. Anesti just that second half of the circuit just struggles a little bit on the rooty technical descents, and whereas Monroe's got a good pace now.
It's kind of the riddle of cross-country racing, isn't it? You can be having a good day like Madigan Monroe clearly is, but if it's not enough to beat somebody else's good day, then it's not enough.
Yeah, and it's this thing of just controlling the controllables, and it's almost you're racing other people, but to be honest, you want to try and lock into your own performance, and it's focusing on the process that you plan to follow in advance, the plan, piecing together the circuit.
You see the leader pushing up through that little climb again. Isabella Holmgren. There's Anesti getting caught by Anna Santos on the march now in 4th place with number 13 on her bike.
Yeah, and you can see Santos as well, kind of attacking this climb rather than just rolling the gear around. Really, you can see pulling with the handlebars. Quite a bit of intent.
Kira Baum, series leader, about to get passed by Emily Johnston. That pass for 5th place then, and Johnston looking like she's cracking on here. Baum trying to stay with her. Really, really tenacious rider, Johnston.
But again, another little demoralising blow for Kira Baum, struggling to keep with Holmgren after, and then having been passed again. Now Johnson going past as well. Every time this happens in this racing, the cross country, you're right on the edge of mentally cracking most of the time. You're at your threshold point, everything in your body's saying to slow down, and you're pushing to keep going. And when you're having a great day mentally, you can just keep going. But if mentally you start doubting yourself, or you start listening to the bit of your brain that's saying, just chill out, slow down a bit, take a break.
There is the leader, Isabella Holmgren. Baum, 17th in the short track yesterday, going backwards out of the top 5 here.
Yeah, and Kira Baum, to give her a due, she had a crash yesterday in the short track, had to chase back on. She did hit the deck, so you're never quite sure, not anything broken, but whenever you hit the deck, you never quite sleep so well that next night. You could have some bruising, some stiffness. Yeah, you're not going to be 100% the next day.
Number 13 on the bike of Anna Santos. Unlucky for some, but it's looking pretty good for her today. We talked about this with Aaron Gwynn during the downhill last week. Ollie, as a racer, Baum just slides out. No grip there. As a racer, where were you in the number 13? Happy enough to have it on, or do you have it on upside down, or?
I would just flip it, because I thought that was a done deal, but...
Right, okay.
What did Gwynn do?
Gwynn said he actually welcomed it because he thought that anything that other people thought was a disadvantage was an advantage for him, which was a very Aaron Gwynn answer.
Yeah, he's tougher than me.
Yeah, well,
and better than me.
He's done a bit of winning this time, Gwynny. We see this big rock section then. Pick a line through there, deep in a race on lap 4 out of 5. Johnson gets it done. That rock right in the middle of your screen, closest to the screen. That is a rim ender.
And as we get into the back of this race, brain's not working quite so well. The arms are getting a little more fatigued. The chance of going offline, having a flat tyre, having a crash. you know, in more than doubles.
And Santos, not unlike Emily Johnson, looking better and better. Santos currently ahead of Johnson by just 4 seconds, so the two of them could well be about to come together.
Yeah, Emily Johnson really coming strong in this second half of the race.
Johnston on the pedals. There's second place and third place and fourth place in one shot up the extremely steep wood climb. It's Monroe from Anesti, from Santos. Johnston pretty much back with Santos now. Is she going to go past her? She does. Nope, sorry, excuse me, that was a bit misleading camera angle. I thought she managed to get the Portuguese rider dispatched.
You can see that Santos has still got lots and lots of power. The rear wheel slid out then, but she managed to maintain the momentum. Another couple of hard pedal strokes to get things going again.
You can see Fiona Schiebler in the blue helmet.
Yeah, coming through strong.
Heading towards Kira Bohm. So we're going to have a battle on our hands here between Anna Santos and Emily Johnston.
And Santos doing a cracking ride. You think the first two races, her best result was 11th, so 11th to 4th, big jump up. But Schiebler, that's the ride of the day so far from this front group. 56th at the start, up to 7th now.
Big jump. Isabella Holmgren is 1 minute and 50 seconds ahead of Madigan Monroe. Johnson has gone past Anna Santos now. So Johnson up into 4th place. Can she get in the top 3?
If we look back down outside that top 10 as well, one of the favourites before the start, Juna Kaluri, 11th place. Valentina Corvi, podium rider in Brazil, back in 12th. McLean Howell as well, the Brit, second in short track, but at the moment back in 18th position.
I just think that the pace at the front being driven on by Isabella Holmgren has just taken everyone by surprise here, Ollie.
Yeah, and I think a couple of people tried to follow. And they, as a result of following, they just went a bit too deep into the red. And then it meant that they were just struggling a bit, where someone like, if we look at it, the rider on screen, remember Emily Johnson just sat back a bit, stayed probably at her own pace, and then is coming through in this second half really strong. And always, when we're riding a cross-country race, I always used to think about it, or riders that I coach now, is trying to break it down into 3 parts. So that first part, ideally, you want to be riding fast, but you want to feel like you've got plenty left in the tank, so you're 1 gear off. The middle section, part 2, you want to feel like you're working hard, but again, you've still got a little bit more in the tank. And then the third part, that's where you just do max and you just get to the finish. But if in the first third, you're feeling like you're at your maximum, you've got no chance of holding that pace.
Wise words indeed. Molly Beckinsale. Emily Johnson, rider on your screen now in 4th place. There is your leader, Isabella Holmgren, the Canadian, in the colours of Lidl Trek. 1 minute 53 seconds ahead of Trek Factory Racing Pirelli's Madigan Monroe. She's in amongst the back markers now as well.
Yeah, there was that time a lap ago when Monroe just took a couple of seconds out, and I just for a second was thinking maybe the tables are going to turn, but it was very short-lived. Straight away again, the gap started going out, so
heading towards
and Holmgren, if you think riding well enough on the descents, I don't think she's a little bit stiff on the bike, but she's doing enough to still hit all the main lines, carry speed.
Front end and back end breaking in unison there, but Holmgren holding the tiller straight.
Just on that line, it just drops over into the drop-off. Just before it, there's 2 routes that are about 30 degrees, and they're big, chunky kind of python routes, and they're the ones that can just put the wheels out of line. And when you get in the back end of the race, you're a bit stiffer on the bike, you're less able to adapt quickly.
What's that, you know, the Eskimos have got how many words for snow? Mountain bikers have got probably double that for routes.
Yeah.
This place has got every single one of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most route-strewn circuit I ever rode, and I think out on the circuit definitely this year.
It's kind of, it's like everywhere, isn't it? You either want it full wet or full dry. In this place, just the way the ground absorbs moisture and the way the sunlight breaks through it, it's never consistent the whole way around.
I think when it's like today, almost perfect conditions for Nové Město. If it's going to rain, you don't want it to be like it was yesterday, under full rain, and it just gets so slippery, and the tyre choice becomes very difficult, because in some sections of the course you still want a lightly treaded tyre that rolls well, but then in a few sections of the course it starts becoming deep mud where you need a more kind of aggressive tread pattern. It becomes really a difficult choice, which for these XC riders, the tyre choice is critical. And it's, they can spend hours agonising about which tyre to use, and when it's dry like this, it's quite a simple choice. You put on an intermediate and off you go.
Olivia Onesti, third place. 1 lap to go. The final lap beckons for Isabella Holmgren. Is she going to get this leading margin out to the 2-minute stage? There's third place, Olivia Onesti. She's 2 minutes 32 back.
Onesti on the moment, heading away to her best race of the year so far, career best. First 2 rounds in Brazil, 6th and a 5th. So for her to get a third place today will be a cracking improvement.
You can see 1 minute 58 now. The difference between Holmgren and Monroe.
Going back to the back markers on that really steep, rocky climb.
Holmgren, though, still looking cool, calm and composed at the front.
Yeah, I think she's in that great position now. Nearly a 2-minute gap. Doesn't need to take any risks. Can roll through the rock sections. I mean, she'll be counting them down now. You've got 3-4 sections that are on the more difficult, or the ones that could cause you a flat tyre or chance of a crash. All you've got to do now is just tick them off. You've got a few climbs left to do, a few descents. Tick them off one by one, keep calm.
Yeah, well, this is definitely one of those days we're going to look back on. Without any disrespect to her, I'd say a lot of people in the mountain bike world hadn't heard the name Isabella Holmgren before this weekend, but they're not going to forget it in a hurry. There's second place, Madigan Monroe, heading towards the start-finish line to start her final lap. What's the gap going to tell us? 1 minute 56 back. 1 minute 58 on the screen, sorry.
But if we forget the time gap, this is a really good ride for Madigan Monroe, up into second place now. Yes. And we're thinking about the overall title. So Holmgren missed the first 2 races, which is going to be hard for her to catch up, and with her other commitments on the road as well, maybe she's not doing a full series from now on. So for Monroe, you're starting to think about pulling points back from Kira Baum in the overall.
Monroe was 6th in Arashad the last round, so going better today. And as well, Ollie, confidently, she's ridden her own race, hasn't she?
Yeah, done her own thing, just like Emily Johnson now, really mature racist. Didn't get flustered, haven't made big mistakes. Whereas you think Kira Baum hasn't had that smooth race. He's been under a lot of pressure as the leader, but not being able to follow Holmgren, and has kind of paid the price for that with some messy riding and then hemorrhaging quite a bit of time.
Good performance in this woman as well. Ana Santos, nearly 3 minutes back in 5th place, but the Portuguese rider, torrid time in Brazil, looking much more like the rider the form suggested at the start of the year. Can Holmgren get this climb in the last lap? No, again no. Off the bike early. Maintains momentum. Kira Baum, the series leader, crosses the line in 6th place, 3 minutes 19 back.
Massive gaps. And I think the risk is now she's actually going to get caught by Fiona Schiebler as well, and maybe losing another spot in this next lap.
Holmgren, head down, spinning the legs on this false flat at the top of the climb.
So that's it, she ticked off another one of these climbs this lap, dropping into the rocks.
Bike equipped, you can see the little black box at the top of the fork, the latest generation of RockShox flight attendant suspension technology, meaning that the bike adjusts to the rider's inputs, what the suspension's doing, and I'm looking forward to seeing the lap times at the end of this one.
Yeah.
There's Benoit crossing the line in 8th, the rider in black with a white helmet, 4 minutes 14 back.
But for Holmgren to step up from juniors, first year, straight in with a performance like this in your first under-23 World Cup.
The number 5 on her bike then, Valentina Corvi, crosses the line in 10th place.
Yeah, Corvi as well, with 3rd place in the last round, dropping back into 10th.
4 minutes 38 back.
That's a tough one. Gina Kilori as well, 13th now. Again, not a great day, but recovering from, almost 25th in the first lap.
Monroe still looking strong.
Yeah. And again, you saw then, just as you crest the climb, you can tell if a rider's still got plenty of energy left. As soon as it goes a little flatter, they're down through the gears, accelerating. When a rider's getting a little bit puffed out, what happens is they just hit the top of the climb and they just stall and they just roll the same gear they were in on the steeper section. But this is a key one for Holmgren now. We see her on the mountain bike in Koppenberg. Straight up.
2 minutes and 4 seconds ahead of Madigan Monroe. Oh, and there is that big steep knuckle just towards the end of it. She manages to get round the rider's left-hand side of it.
It's almost like a personal mission not to have to dab on this section, but to be able to ride it. Oof. Ellen McLean-Howell.
Ellen McLean-Howell off, knees dirty, so that looks like a crash. See the arms bandaged up as well.
That's walking, but yeah, sorry to see her out of the race. Having a great short second in the short track yesterday, so. That's another big section for Holmgren ticked off now.
Yeah, McLean-Howell officially marked as a DNF, but up and moving.
And the gap from Holmgren to Monroe growing even more, back to 2:08 now.
I think Holmgren's got another couple of laps in her, but on this kind of form, it looks like she's just rolling around, quick practice laps, as you say.
Really interesting to see comparing her lap times when the elite women race tomorrow. That'll be one I'll have a keen look at.
Holmgren on the 32 bike, blasting her way into the 2024 UCI World Cup cross-country season. She's going to do the double here in Nové Město na Moravě.
Yeah, it's definitely the fashion with the U23 riders. You see Riley Amos unbeaten so far this season, doubling up in both the races in Brazil, in the under-23 men. Kira Baum doubling up in both the races in this category, and I think Holmgren's going to do the same again today.
Very much the fashion among the 23s at the minute, isn't it? The doubles. Yeah. Holmgren through there safely. 2 minutes 7 seconds back to second place. Madigan Monroe, then Olivia Nesty holding firm in 3rd place. Although
that gap's just clear. It looks always shortened on this climb, but just dropping back down 25 seconds or so. Monroe's going to have to keep the pressure on.
And Nesty looks like she should have enough in hand to stay out of the clutches of Emily Johnson, barring any kind of disaster. Anna Santos is in 5th, 3 minutes 10 seconds back.
But Johnson looks like she's locked into an Esty now. 15 seconds or so is easily closable in this next 2/3 of a lap.
Isabella Holmgren has been the class off the field by some margin here today. 2 minutes 9 seconds as she heads into that second tech zone. Clapped on by the Trek mechanics.
Yeah, so the tech zone's on course. There's 2 separate ones at this course at Nové Město, so the riders can take a water bottle or energy gels.
So the battle for 6th and 7th is on. Kira Bohm is now joined by Fiona Schiebler in the blue helmet. Bohm needs to keep Schiebler at bay here, if only for her own mental strength. If you look at the number board on Schiebler's bike.
Yeah, that
56.
That would crack me. 56 rolled past and I had number 1 on. And I think you've got to hang it. And then we're talking about the overall. That's another position that Kira Bohm's lost to Madigan Munro in that fight for that red jersey.
Well, we mentioned how the fields were so much bigger here at the first big European race of the season. Kira Bohm just doing enough to keep Fiona Schiebler off bike team Solitern. Behind her at the top last time up that climb.
Holmgren on the check drops.
Holmgren, yeah.
1 main climb left to go. 1 big descent with the roots.
It's a proper nibbly climb, this next one, isn't it? When they swing left, it's never easy, never mind 5 laps deep.
And you've got 2 completely separate lines. You do one and you think, oh, that was horrible, the other one's going to be better. And you do that one, you find it's equally as tough. Yeah, Holmgren, good cadence, deciding just to hop off on this steepest bit.
Last time she'll have to see it for a while. Jumps back on for the final little punch at the top of it.
Like we said before, as well as being junior mountain bike, also cyclocross champ as well, so getting on and off the bike at speed and ease is not going to be a problem.
I don't think she's had many problems out there today. It's been
pretty cool.
Pretty faultless performance. Meanwhile, these two still scrapping for 6th place. Bohm and Schiebler.
Yeah, and fair play for Kira Bohm as well. When that rider comes up alongside you, she put a bit of fight in on this last lap.
I think there's going to have to be a serious debrief after this one for Kira Bohm. It's not been a great weekend for the Cube factory racing rider.
Yeah, and it's from here to the next race in Val Soleil, a few weeks. So there is enough time to either recover from the crash that she had in the short track or get some training time in, some extra races, whatever you think you need to get your level back up again to try and compete with Holmgren at the 4th round. You do have a little bit of time to do it. When it's back-to-back racing, it's so tough. You just literally recover race. There's nothing you can do really to change your fitness or form.
This little section through here really is Val di Sole in a nutshell. Fresh on lap 1. Yeah. It's a fast, really fun bit of track, but the more laps you do of it, the more difficult it becomes.
Yeah. So many opportunities on the last lap just to make a silly mistake and lose the front wheel on one of these routes.
Onesti still looking like she's charging here. Monroe and Onesti have had great days. It's important not to take anything away from them.
I think for Onesti, she's probably had a look behind, seen Emily Johnson coming at speed and decided, right, I've got to crack on.
Empty the tank. There is Johnson. Lands that first drop deep, reminiscent of Evie Richards here last year. Richards MIA this weekend. still recovering from a concussion injury. But Isabella Holmgren has been faultless in the Vysočina. She joins a club that holds the names Pidcock, Lecompte, Avancini, Andreasen and Mathieu van der Poel written large in it. As a first-time winner in Nové Město, Moravě, Isabella Holmgren takes one of the most commanding cross-country victories in recent history. We wait now to see the gap back to second place, and we're going to have to wait for a while, Ollie.
What a performance. We saw in the short track as she kind of rode off on the penultimate lap that she clearly was in fantastic shape, but to be junior world champion, step up in your first World Cup and not just win, but win by over 2 minutes, that's unbelievable performance.
And we're not seeing the Alessandra Keller on the floor struggling to breathe just yet from her. She's celebrating with the team, taking a bottle.
I think if she was forced to, there's a bit more left in the tank there. Really long.
Isabella Holmgren, absolutely superb in Nové Město, Moravě. Celebrates with the fans. Some of mountain bike cross country's hardest of hardcore, die-hard fans, they will appreciate a ride like that.
Yeah, an hour and a quarter for the winning race time, just on the longer side, and I think she had that gap early on, and she just on the interview said it was really long. But
second place, Madigan Monroe. Smile already starting to spread across her face. She knows that she's ridden really well today, Monroe, through the jump line for the last time, up and over the bridge. And then just a long pedal down the start-finish straight on the flat. A mercifully smooth asphalt of Nové Město, Moravě. What's the clock going to tell us? Here comes Madigan Monroe. Absolutely nothing to be ashamed about in that second place. A superb ride from her all afternoon long. Monroe crosses the line, and it is going to be 2 minutes and 1 second. 2 minutes 5 seconds, excuse me, the margin of victory for Isabella Holmgren. Olivia Nesti, the best we've seen of her so far this season, across a full race distance. French national champion, right to celebrate that one as well. Great performance from her, 2:24 back.
Yeah, and I think Madigan Monroe, Olivia Nesti, the best results of their season so far, and I think they are really happy, and they should be really happy with those performances. 2 great rides today, and for their overall hopes, I think for Monroe as well, with Kira Baum a little off sorts, I think that's great for her overall chances.
Celebrates with photographer Ross Bell, team photographer down there. Here comes Emily Johnson for Trek Future Racing. Another gutsy performance from Johnson. Up into 4th place. It's coming for Johnston. Crosses the line just over 3 minutes back in 4th place.
Yeah, solid race for Johnson. Her best result so far this year. She was at 3rd place in round 1.
That's a good news story as well. Ana Santos, she was bitterly disappointed with the performances she turned in Brazil. The number 13 plate gets a top 5 at the UCI World Cup, ahead of the overall points leader, Kira Baum. No celebrations from Baum. First time we've seen that in 2024. Managed to hold off this woman, Fiona Schiebler. Great ride from Schiebler.
Yeah,
her bike
really,
team
really
turn.
And for Schiebler as well, first year in the under-23s as well, so just going into that category, so plenty of time.
The talent field absolutely stacked. Just like it kind of feels like it is in every race in the Whoop UCI Mountain Bike World Series at the minute. Here comes another really good news story. Elena Benoit at the front of this race threw out, and she is going to lead home Louisa Doberman.
And Benoit as well, fair play. She was the only rider on that start loop that tried to go with Holmgren. Everyone else just found the white flag.
Isabella, that was a fantastic performance. Your second amazing performance this weekend. Tell us how that felt out there today.
Thank you. Yeah, it was definitely really, really hard. I had a front row start, which was really nice and helpful, I think, because there was a lot of crashing. I could just hear it behind me. So, yeah, I was just trying to stay out of trouble and race my own race.
We had a bit of a rainstorm come in just before your race. Do you think that changed the track conditions at all out there?
I think it was, the routes were definitely a bit more slippery, so I was making sure to be super cautious on the descents and then just give it my all on the climbs. So yeah, I think it was a little bit more slippery than the first few days of pre-ride, but nothing too bad since the rain stopped.
You had a great lead from the early laps, almost a minute in the first 2 laps alone. Was that a strategy today to get out front early?
I don't think it was, well, yeah, I didn't really want to be caught up on the descents because I know that's not always my strongest suit, so I just tried to go as hard as I could on the climbs, and yeah, maybe a bit too hard at the start, but yeah, it worked out in the end, so I'm happy with it.
It worked out great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It did work out. It worked out perfectly for Holmgren. Clapped on the final lap. Clapped on the whole way round. Debut UCI cross-country Olympic World Cup win for Isabella Holmgren. And Ollie, if you're a little track, that looks like a pretty good investment, doesn't it?
I mean, we're seeing this a lot more now, the big teams grabbing junior talent, whereas previously they would normally take it from the end of under-23 racing, but grabbing juniors early on and really getting involved in development. And Little Trek there, taking the junior woman cyclocross and XC champion, and yeah, to come out first race, and it'd be great if we see her in the rest of the series.
Here we go then. Holmgren from Monroe, from Onesti, from Johnson, Santos. 3.5 minutes cover the top 5. Baum, Schiebler, Benoit, Doberman and McPhee, the top 10, covered by just under 5 minutes. What a race from Isabella Holmgren. It doesn't come much more dominant than that. Here are those lap comparisons then. So she did the damage on lap 1, and then look at those lap times: 3:20, 13:20, 13:32, 13:34, 13:51. So she did roll off slightly on the last lap. It could have been more.
She definitely, she said she went off hard, probably a bit too hard, and that lap time show it. You know, normally you don't want the lap times to drop off that much, and she was actually hurting a bit.
Great return to the podium after a difficult start to the season. How did that feel out there today?
It felt super good. Honestly, I just went in with the plan to ride my own race and ride super smooth and confident, and I was able to do that, so I'm super happy with it. I think it's a great way to kick off the European campaign.
How hard was it to maintain that patience at the early part of the race when it started to blow up out there?
I think it was a bit difficult just seeing Isabella go off the front and knowing I couldn't quite hold that pace today, but I think also just being able to, I know what happened in Brazil when I went out a bit too hard, so I learned my lesson that way, and so I was able to rein it in a bit more today.
Fantastic effort. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, a young racer with a mature head on her shoulders. Monroe knows that was a good one today.
Yeah, she did a great run, like she said in the clip with Josh then. Wanted to do her own pace, and I think that showed. She just backed off a little bit, didn't try and chase down Holmgren. Consistent lap times as well.
Olivia, third place today. Fantastic effort. Tell us about how that played out for you.
Yeah, I'm so happy today. The first podium in the World Cup of the season, so I'm just super happy today of my shape, and my body is better and better week after week, so I'm so happy, and I can looking forward for the rest of the season. So for me today, I just enjoy my day.
Fantastic. We enjoyed your race. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Olivia Onesti really, really good as well today.
Yeah, it's great. You see, cracking race, a PB one, but so happy as well. Third place, jumping up from her results in the first 2 rounds. So strong on the climbs, and I think when we get to some of the more alpine circuits later in the year, Val de Soleil, probably more like Le Jet, we're going to see her as a threat.
Backed on by that French crowd. Olivia Onesti, with her climbing capabilities, could well be a big threat at that particular race. There's confirmation of the results. Holmgren, Monroe, Onesti, Johnson, Santos top 5, Baum, Schiebler, Benoit, Dauberman, Ella McPhee in the top 10. Shisinska, the pole in 11th. Corvey, 12th. Kaluri, 13th. Sina Van Thiel in there as well. Marine Lowe, 28th. We saw her in the front row, so things didn't go her way today, nor did they go the way of Sarah Cortinovis, just ahead of her in 27th. See the other Holmgren sister, Eva, dropped a bit further back. She was up around 17th at one stage, finished just outside the top 30.
But when you think, again, first year junior, first year under 23 as well, that's still a solid result. It's just when you've been kind of outclassed or outshone by your sister.
Yeah, the Holmgren's a fast family though. I'm sure they're well versed in it. Third place though goes to Olivia Onesti. So she's feeling better and better every time she races. French national champion looked good today. Plenty more races to come this season. Madigan Monroe. Really happy with that result. We heard from her at the end there. Knows that that's a good way to kick off the European races. But cross-country Olympic performances do not come any more dominant than what this woman produced. Isabella Holmgren announced her arrival on the big stage in the loudest way possible. Huge win for Holmgren, Eda Monroe and Onesti.
Yeah, outstanding ride by Holmgren. Start to finish, on the start loop getting a gap, and I didn't see her make a single mistake.
If she did, it wasn't on our shot. She was absolutely superb. Looked like, as you said, Ollie, she was doing fast practice laps. That first lap, though, is where she did the damage. Yeah. It blew him away. So, here's how the overall stands look after that then. Ciara Bohm still has the jersey, but her points lead down to 79. Ahead of Emily Johnson, and Madigan Monroe snapping at her heels as well, just 89 points off her. Then it's Kaluri, Onesti, Corvey, Santos, Salvini Morgan, Olibova, Ella McPhee. But those top 3, too close to mention.
And after the first 2 rounds, I thought Ciara Bohm was just going to run away with this, but
it's going to be a cakewalk, wasn't it?
Yeah, but we're seeing today the tables turned a little bit, still in the lead, but that gap reduced quite a lot by Monroe and Johnson.
It's cycling in general, but it's mountain biking in particular, where it can just be so fickle. You can be top of the world at one race and then just really struggling at the next. And the last thing Ciara Bohm will have thought about as she boarded that plane home from Brazil is that she'd be coming here to be beaten as convincingly as she was by Isabella Holmgren. So it's turned out to be. She has some time to regroup and retool now, and crucially, Ciara Bohm still has the overall points leader's jersey after that superb South American campaign. So, Bohm still top of the heap. in the under-23 UCI World Cup cross-country Olympic standings.
I mean, far from a disaster for Kira Bones. Yeah, today it's not what she would have hoped for, but from an overall perspective, that's not a disastrous day.
Far from a disaster, but a question without any obvious answers. Next up, cross-country Olympic for the under-23 men. Well, a fascinating under-23 women's race. Won convincingly by a brand new superstar. Will we see the same again in the under-23 men's race? Stay tuned to find out. Thanks for watching.